Thank you for tuning in to All About the Girls, the podcast, where your host, me, Jenny Craig Brown, interviews incredible women to learn what powers them, what inspires them, and how they make our world a better place. Let's get to it.
I married a sailor, United States Navy, then allowed us to live in Virginia, Florida, Illinois, and Japan. And I have a 14-year-old grandson. Who is really just the joy of my life. Although I married young, I did achieve a bachelor's degree. You know, we settled here in the area, built our lives here. Our kids established, they were so active in different activities and things like that. And so we've been here.
Please join me in welcoming Diana Anderson, who's Comcast's Regional Vice President of Customer Experience, to the podcast today. Welcome, Diana. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I'm super excited to get to know you better. Very excited to get to learn more about that job title. That is fantastic. So let's dive right in. Tell me just a little bit about Diana. Who are you? What do you love? Let's talk about you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'll start I am from Hannibal, Missouri. As some people may acknowledge, that's the home of Mark Twain. So definitely a great place to visit. It's considered America's hometown. So that's where I'm from. I married a sailor, United States Navy, then allowed us to live in Virginia, Florida, Illinois, and Japan.
Wow.
Had some wonderful experiences living outside of the country. I am a mom of 2 adult children who I like a lot, and they like us. So we're always thrilled that they will spend time with us. And I have a 14-year-old grandson who is really just the joy of my life.
How much do you love being a grandmother?
Oh, it's what's so wonderful about a grandma is I don't have to have the ultimate responsibility. And I've learned what things are really important. So the example I like to use is, if my grandson were to say, can I have a hot dog for breakfast? I'll be like, of course. But if my children would have asked for a hot dog, I would have been like, absolutely not. That is not a breakfast food. That would not reflect good on me or you. So you could just, as a grandparent, I have been able to let go of all those preconceived notions of my expectations as a parent.
Yeah, the pressure's off. My mom is the exact same. We did not get coffee or sodas or sugar a lot when we were kids. I mean, not zero, but not nearly as much as my nieces and nephews. They get whatever they want, whenever they want it, because it's grandma time now and she doesn't have to care.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and my son is a single father, so I don't get to spoil as much, maybe, because to a certain extent, I am also the mother figure in his life. But we definitely do whenever we can. So, and I like to put it under the category, well, we know now what's really important.
Exactly. There you go. That's a great kind of, I wouldn't even call it an excuse. It's a great explanation.
Yeah. Some of those things. Some things really was more about us as parents in the right intention. Yeah. 100% the right intention, but that's the dynamic. Definitely that's, that is the core of my life and who I am. I'm very proud of the fact that, although I married young, I did achieve a bachelor's degree. And I mention it that way because I married young and my father said, well, you'll never finish school. And that was just that I needed. So it took me 7 years, but I did achieve a bachelor's degree. One of my really just most proud accomplishments.
Yeah, kudos. That's incredible, especially marrying young and just kind of getting into it, starting to build a family. Yeah, and do that at the same time. That's impressive.
Yeah, and being a young Navy wife away from home, and acclimating to those things. After we lived in Japan, I did work on my master's degree because then it was my turn to really establish the career path that I'm on now. So up until that point, I worked, but I did it, I would say, Jackie of all trades kinds of jobs. in order to have to develop some professional experience. But it's since my husband retired and we came to Illinois that I really have built the career path that I am experiencing now.
That's incredible. So you're obviously back in the region now. Was it just that, like what brought you here from Missouri and then Japan? And then like you mentioned, now it was your turn. What brought you to the Northwest Indiana region?
Yeah. So, my husband retired. So he did his last duty station in the United States Navy at Great Lakes Naval Station.
Okay.
And then, we settled here in the area, built our lives here. Our kids established, they were so active in different activities and things like that. And so we've been here.
So it just really
we got here.
The area. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Good. I love the region. I think, we talk about to all of the women on the podcast, all of our guests, a little bit about the region and where they're at. And it's just a cool place to be. I think you can kind of find a little bit of everything. I'm certain, we could talk all the day about maybe not loving winter, but that's not everyone. And it's just a really great region in general. I think the kind of kind-hearted public is what I kind of encapsulated as, like, we've got a really nice bunch of people here.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. Excuse me. In the context of, having lived on a couple of places on the East Coast and traveled, to the Midwest, I think Midwesterners are really warm and loving and caring people. And I definitely have family that live in towns with one stoplight, and they will wave at you whether they know you or not, because if you have a purpose for being in their town, they're going to wave. So definitely that type of Midwestern. What I so much enjoy about the area is that there really is anything.
Yep.
So just anything, any type of sport, any type of musical interest, any types of art. It's just, and then services, in the context of specialty medical services or any of those types of things. So I really have found it to be a really enriching area to be a part of.
That's awesome. I completely agree. Tell me a little bit. So I said early on, you've got this really incredible title of Vice President of Customer Experience for Comcast. It's Regional Vice President of Customer Experience. I want to get that proper for Comcast. That's a big title, but I think it probably, from my small understanding, comes with a big responsibility. Tell us a little bit about your career and how you got there.
Yeah.
What do you do, and how did you get into that world?
Yeah, so that is, I think that I really fascinated even myself in the context of how did I get here?
Yeah.
And I think that, it's really has been a foundation of being a business professional first, and then having expertise in certain areas. And through, being a business professional I really worked to build meaningful relationships with business partners. So relationships equals results. That's something I really, really believe. So most of my expertise has been in learning and development, in talent development, in organizational development, leadership development, anything with a development on it.
Yeah.
And had a wonderful journey at Walgreens headquarters before I came to Comcast. In the context of, a couple of promotions and different, I worked in different areas, was part of a team that launched the first engagement aspect of members at Walgreens, contributed to the development of a brick and mortar Walgreens University. So, just really anything that had development. So the core is helping people and organizations just get better. Better experiences. The position that I'm in right now, I was invited to apply for, again, based on the business relationships that I had established as the leader of Comcast University. And it's interesting. People hear customer experience and they may think call center or customer service agent. my scope is broader. My scope isn't just specifically the call center. My scope is the culture. My scope is the mindset, and the behaviors that we adopt so that we can make an impression, so that every moment and interaction is extraordinary and meaningful. So that is what I really work for, that there's true meaning in the interactions that we have with our teammates and our customers. The other part is there is some functional operational aspects that I am responsible for, because we do have to track results, and we are looking for areas that we can improve, and how can we influence our partners outside of the region and within the region and at headquarters, as far as where investments are made to improve experiences.
That's incredible. And I think it's almost like instead of being the person in that call center giving that experience to someone, you're building it so they can provide it. And I think that, am I right?
Yeah, that's
that
a great
kind
call.
of
That's a
okay?
really great call. And it's, and I think I really care. I really care about how our teammates are experiencing their day. Let's just say that, because we know that impacts how they're able to care for a customer.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really does. I completely agree. I mean, you know, everybody's affected by everything that happens to them on an average day all day. So whether it was you had a rough morning and you're running late and then you had to get gas and now you're running later and you're running the door and it's really busy and all that stuff, it can affect your mood, it can affect who you are, it can affect all those things. But especially what you guys do, it can't affect the work and
Yeah,
it can't
100%.
affect that
100%. We must keep people connected. We must provide avenues for people to be able to connect with us to solve their problems. And
yeah.
if they're encountering a problem or answer a question. So it's really about, again, that personal engagement and relationship that has meaning for the customer and the teammate.
That's really incredible. Is there any quick tip, and you don't have to have a yes for this, to help someone maybe turn their day around? Or is there something that advice you give to your team often to say, hey, I know sometimes it's hard, but here's what I do? Anything like that you could give us briefly?
I think that I really have worked very hard the last couple of years, personally and professionally, to be a deep listener and to be genuine and authentic in my empathy, before I move to, well, let's be grateful. We have so much to be happy for. So,
Yes.
I think that it's, being gracious. Thank you for sharing that with me. Just really making that human connection. I'm glad that you trusted me with that information. And that is a difficult situation to be in. That's a not something any of us would wish on anyone. It just really, what is that empathetic but genuine connection? And then what can we control? What can we influence? What can we be grateful for? Knowing that gratitude has emotional and physical benefits. It is something that I am a proponent of. But I don't want to be, what is it they call it now? Gaslighting with
Yeah.
Susie
Yeah.
Sunshine. No, I think it's a lot of authenticity in creating that connection, and being empathetic.
Right. I completely agree. And, obviously here at Great News, we're exclusively positive news. We don't touch any crime or any politics or anything like that. And I think sometimes it's just those little things like the fact that I really am surrounded by positive news all the time that helps me in my day to day. And I think you're right. Like there's just so many opportunities to be grateful for what we have. It doesn't have to be fake. It doesn't have to be gaslighting. It can
Right.
very much be a real connection that you're making with people and a real mood that you have that is positive. I think um,
Yeah. Yeah.
taking that look and really investing in those folks and what they're going through and what you can help them with.
Right.
It's pretty easy if you just think more about this is a great person in our community and I care about that person and I care about how happy they are. And then I think that mindset just quickly changes a lot of what you do every day to better and positive.
100%. And I think there's a good aspect too there of showing appreciation. That's something that is important. I am someone who leans into a simple thank you. and sharing that with our teammates. Matter of fact, just earlier today, I just sent a quick note to someone who pulled together a slide for me. Just thank you so much. That made a difference in my day. I think creating that show appreciation, that's something that is important for us to demonstrate with our customers. We know customers have choices, and the fact that they're choosing Xfinity by Comcast is valued. And we want to be appreciative of that as well.
That's really great. So tell me how you define customer experience. I think you alluded to it a couple times. Tell me how you define a customer experience.
Sure. It's any interaction or engagement that a customer has, whether it be with one of our teammates, with one of our products, one of our services. And actually, we believe that the more invisible we are, the less frequently we need to engage is actually the ultimate customer experience.
Yes, I don't want to have to talk to you a lot. No offense. You're great, but I want all my stuff to work and I want everything to be wonderful, right?
100%. If I think about the brand relationships, or some of my favorite relationships in my world, it's those that I know that are there. I know I can rely. And we've done a tremendous amount of growth in providing reliable services, building our network so that customers can rely that when they need connectivity, that it's there, and that it's invisible, but yet we know it's there.
Fantastic. And tell me a little, so how can I guess Comcast as a whole, how do you continually deliver that experience over and over? I mean, it's got to be tough with how connected we are, how much is running through the system. I'm certain you guys have zillions of people to take care of. How do you kind of do that over and over?
I think that is realizing, though, that every customer has a unique experience. So that's one thing, is that when that connection is made, it's the customer's experience. And then overall, it is ensuring that we put the tools in place that will monitor our network for us, investments in our digital aspects in which customers can be empowered to check on something without having to make a phone call. It's providing cybersecurity consistently at the point of the home. Is one of the things that we've invested in. The average home today has 22 connected devices.
Ooh.
So, and we're becoming more and more connected.
22 connected devices. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
As you say that, I, of course, instantly start going through my head, like, not me. And then I was like, ooh, well.
That is the common reaction.
Yeah.
That is the common reaction. And so it is a good thing to understand what those are, It is every aspect of our life. Our laptops, our phones, our washing
my headphones. Yeah, exactly. My headphones, my front door lock. Like there's so many things that, yes, I have a key in case that doesn't work, but technically that's connected. My security system, literally there's so much now. I didn't believe you 4 seconds ago, and now I do.
Yes, exactly. And 22 is the average.
So probably larger families even more so, where maybe we're at 18 because I don't have any children, but that's still, you know what I mean? Like that's a lot. And there's probably plenty, you're right, with more. If you have 3 kids and they each have their own tablet and then they have a laptop for school and then you guys have TVs and everybody has one in their room, plus they're, goodness gracious, it adds up really fast. Phones and everything. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. So it's just really, really critical that that connection be reliable for all aspects of our life: learning, connectivity, entertainment, safety. It's just very, very important. And we recognize that and are making the investments to just continue to improve from a speed perspective, from a security perspective, from a growth perspective, as we, invest. And I think it is investment. What we invest in our network benefits customers in our communities, such as in Northern Indiana.
Yeah. So as we talked, you're part of this community and it's the community that you guys serve. I've heard some about Xfinity rewards and things like that.
Yeah.
but I don't know much about it. But I do assume that it is part of that kind of experience piece. Tell me a little bit about how that plays into that full experience too.
Right. I really enjoy talking about Xfinity Rewards. It is
I've heard
not,
it a ton. I don't know a ton about it. So this will be kind of
yeah,
fun. Yeah.
it's not the common run-of-the-mill rewards program where you might get a discount on your bill, which is valued.
Yeah, that's great.
It is intended to create experiences. It is intended to show appreciation to our customers. So
That's
customers from
important.
day one can enroll in Xfinity Rewards, and from day one, they have special discounts, perks, and experiences that are available to them. And then, depending on their time of tenure, they then get access to a greater catalog of different types of discounts, events, and experiences. And they're changing, they're evolve. So right now, excuse me, one of the things that are available is early access to the latest game, Call of Duty game.
Oh,
So
yes.
special
Big,
early
big hit.
access yeah, is
Yeah.
available. There's discounts for Universal Studios. There's also for people who
Neat.
like to engage in sweepstakes and things. There's sweepstakes available. So it is intended to be not just a check in the box, but it's intended to be a part of creating more rich experiences for our customers.
And stuff that really people care about. And I think you're right. You go to the gas station and they have a rewards card and you scan it, but you don't know why, and nor do I ever know what I get. And then they're like, well, you can save on gas. Well, I don't know how, and I never do, and I never figure it out, so I never use it. And it's those things I think that they're where you see they have that program,
Mhm.
either it's too hard or it's too undefined to
Right.
use regularly. So people just don't. But this is something that's probably a higher caliber of offerings and seemingly pretty easy accessible. So
Yeah.
that's good. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. It's accessible through through the app, through the customer account. So easily accessible. And I think it's interesting that it's changing. Yes.
Yeah.
So what's available today, or what's available tomorrow or next month, and keeps it more interesting.
And it's probably fun as heck on the inside to get to be a part of planning that and figuring all that out. And yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and that has been interesting to just have, a little bit. I just have a tiny bit of input on that, but in the context of what will be engaging for the customer. Yeah. And how to get, customers enrolled for sure.
Yeah. So, I candidly preach heavily in my office to my team about in-person communication. I would rather have, obviously we're an online company, but I would rather have a team member come to my office, sit down with me, come inside, like close the door, sit with me and talk with me almost about anything. I would guess in your guys' world, that's probably similar, but a lot harder to actually do that. Tell me about that full circle communication, because you guys probably have to do online. You have to have something where people don't want to talk to people, so they just go on the computer and get all their questions answered,
Right.
or phone or in person. Do you guys offer all of those too? I mean,
Yes.
those are really important to folks like me and my
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
We have to use all those. I would assume same for you guys, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's not just the cable industry, but it's really about meeting the customer where they are. So, if you're a customer, we have customers who will order equipment online, but choose to go into a store to pick it up.
Okay.
So that customer is seeking that assurity of, of having that equipment handed to them by a person, or they're desiring that, personal connection like you're talking about. So
Yeah,
we
and then they can
have,
order online and know that they can take their time and go through and get exactly what they
yeah,
want, but then they can see someone's face to get it.
100%. So that's an option that's
Cool.
available. And so we have Xfinity stores in Elkhart, Hammond, Granger, Maryville, and Valpo. And we think of our stores as community stores,
Yeah.
and it's a fun and engaging store to enter. Our teammates are high energy. You can touch, the projects, whether you're interested in Xfinity Mobile or you're interested in having a question about your bill answered. The teammates there are, well-rounded to be able to care for our customers.
Yes. And for someone like me, I don't know the tech world very well. It's not a secret. I'm very loud and proud. I'm not a techie by any means. I have some people here that help me with that. Thank God for them. But when things don't work, I can do a lot of great things on a computer or a phone when it works really well. I will design you some wonderful things. We can get some graphics going. It will be really fun. If it's not working, it's a brick at some point. It's useless. So I love that because I really do need that handled sometimes because it's just not my world and I really don't know a ton about it. So I like that kind of in person. I don't want to get put on hold 15 times and transferred all over the world. I really do want to be able to do that where I can get on the phone, but I also there might be some things where I'd want to just talk to a person and see their face. Like I said, I
Absolutely.
preach it to my team all the time. You can if you email someone, you learn, or someone emails you,
Mhm.
you learn a very little bit of whatever that email specifically says. If
Yeah.
you're on the phone, that transfers to knowing whatever they're saying, also how they're saying it. That gives you a
Right.
little more information, right? Their
Mhm.
tone. Do they sound exasperated? Do they sound super excited?
Right.
What is that? And then that in person, now I can see, I can hear what they're saying. I can see their body, how
Mm.
how they're set, their motionisms, what they're doing. And then I similarly can still hear that in their voice. So I think that's always the best. But you're right. There's a lot of folks that say, hey, I just want to be on this side of the screen.
Right.
Send it all to
Yes.
me. And I don't really want to deal with people. And that's okay.
Right.
It's a different type of person than me. But as long as you guys, it sounds like you guys have really figured out a way to make it work. And
Oh,
I like
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, definitely the whatever that personalized route is for someone, someone may want to install their own equipment. They can order it, have it shipped to their home, and they can install it themselves. There
Yeah.
might be someone else who's like, "Oh, no way. I'm willing to pay the install fee. When are you coming?" Uh,
That's me. I'm that person.
I tend to skew that way as well. So it again, it's about meeting the customer, where they're at and having creating an experience for them that's personalized, where they feel like they matter. And
Yeah.
you talk about inviting your teammates to your office. I think the human experience, which is part of who we are professionally, um, is about making that connection. It's about feeling and like you're heard and feeling that you are seen. So whether that what that avenue is, and that's what we want. And the ultimate is to say it matters that I walk on this earth. So we want our customers to believe that they do matter, that we
I love
do
that.
care about what they're experiencing, and provide them the best that we can do. And we're not perfect, and if it's not exactly perfect, we're invested in improving that experience.
Yes. Um, so when you began your career, it sounds
Mhm.
like, it sounds like Walgreens was one of the big hits along the way. Obviously, Comcast now. When you
Yeah.
started your career early on, did you think that it would be what it is and where you're at today? Or how different is that from your original thought and your original kind of plan?
Yeah, it's such a fascinating story because I'm a little fascinated by I've seen this tactic before of writing a letter to your 18-year-old self or talking to your 18-year-old self.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
That
I
was
would
actually so our event, All About the Girls, is an annual event, as I mentioned, I think earlier. And then we obviously have the podcast. One of the events, they're all themed. And one year the theme was advice you'd give to a younger you. So yeah, definitely. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think so if we, should the advice I'd give to the younger you is, trust your heart and really keep moving forward. I thought when I was 18 that I would go to college, I'd get a degree, and then I was going to go work in New York City. I really one of my mom's cousins to me was she worked in a bank. She was beautiful. She wore suits. To me, she was like, you know, la,
Yeah. End all
whenever
be
she would
all.
come
This is
around.
where you've made
Yes, exactly.
it.
So I took a different route, yeah, in mailing a sailor and moving out but I just really worked to take something away from any experience I had. I ended up working 8 years early. So in my 20s, I worked for 8 years in the real estate escrow business. So I
Okay.
ended up doing real estate closings, and then for a while I was the office, everything, personnel director, administrator, everything for a regional title insurance company, and then moved on to a regional sales organization. And when we lived in Japan, as I mentioned, we were there for 4 years. I substitute taught for the Department of Defense schools.
Oh,
So I
wow.
just really tried to, and a lot of tactics I learned in those schools, I used in learning and development for adults. So I just really tried to, and I think I did a pretty good job at it, frankly, take something away from every experience and apply it. Whether it was, oh, geez, I'm not going to do that again, to, oh, that was such a great experience. How can I make more of it?
That's fantastic. I love that. Take it something away from every experience. And
Yeah.
it doesn't always have to be a good takeaway, but at the end of the day, good or bad, it's still a positive it's positive learning, right? You're learning something.
Yeah.
Who cares? It wasn't even a bad thing. It was just something you learned. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a great way to look at it too. It's
Yeah,
just
there is. My very favorite learning and development quote. I'm going to reference it here to make sure I get it. I keep it handy.
oh, that's cool. You have it right there. That's awesome.
Yeah, from John Dewey, who was a psychologist, so well known for any psychology majors or students out there. We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting upon our experience. And so the power
Great
comes,
point.
yeah, so the power comes in mindfulness about it, or sharing the experience with someone else.
Yeah.
Those types of things. And I again, I think it's that connection that really adds value and meaning.
Yep. And it's something, maybe it's as I advance in age, I'm not sure what it is. Just recently, I've really started, maybe through some podcasts and such that gave me maybe some good advice. Spending that last portion of the day, you're kind of getting ready for bed and you get into bed and I like to spend that kind of reflecting on the day. Where could I have done better? If something kind of made me mad, how could I have not? Why did it? If things went really well, how can I do that again? How can we keep recreating that? Why did it go well? Just number one, because I think you have to do that to learn, but also I think when you take some time to reflect on each of those, you probably, hopefully I'll start to pull out some of those things where I do that a lot, or that always makes me annoyed, or I love days that end like that, whatever it is, to where I can really start to hopefully recreate those days that you just love and you're really happy with the whole day, and really start working on those areas that maybe I don't love, how I reacted to someone, or how much work I did, or how distracted I was, or anything like that, and really start improving it. So I think that's another great kind of way to do that and learn. So brilliant quote. I love that.
Yeah, I love what you said too. And it's something that I've added recently to that day of the end reflection is how did I love myself today? And
Ooh, that's good.
it was something as as my adult children. I mean, I think about the journey that I've been on personally and professionally. So much of my energy in my 20s and 30s was around supporting my husband's military career, was around, getting that degree under my belt, was around starting my family. It was around single parenting when my husband was deployed. So there was a lot of energy that was all about everybody else and everything else. And, my mom was just a phenomenal example of genuine, simple love through, supporting others. This last 2 years, though, I've really been focusing on how am I loving myself? So I did add that question to the end of the day. How did I love myself today?
Oh, I love that. I'm going to have to add that to mine too. And I don't know that I'll often have a good answer, so I better start working on it.
That's when we pay the attention to patterns, right? Because when it's be like, oh, can't think of anything. If that starts coming the pattern, then it's like, I need to pay attention to this. This is the information that I can't be. I didn't learn this until probably later in my 30s. But I really believe what they say on an airplane. Give yourself oxygen before you give it to others. Or the latest, what happens to your mobile phone, your cell phone, if it starts running out of battery? What do we do?
You put it on charger.
Charge it.
Yep.
So we don't wait, days
You
on
try
end.
very hard not to wait for it to die. So don't do that to yourself either.
100%. So these little, and that's another, I'm a fan of these little things in life and to just really embellish on them and learn from them. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
So
fun.
you touched on one maybe very briefly in that conversation. Women in your life that have impacted you. Who are those women?
Oh, yeah. I did actually. It was interesting. Um, my mother for sure. I think to be completely authentic and genuine about this, didn't really connect strongly with my mom growing up. She was a stay-at-home mom until I was a teenager. She sewed all my clothing, which embarrassed me. That's the truth.
I get it.
And it wasn't until, later in my 20s that I started to recognize her beauty and her talent.
Mm-hmm.
So that had that experience. And of course I mentioned my mom's cousin who I just thought, walked on water. She was just so
Yeah.
beautiful. And I'm a person of a taller stature. And my mom's cousin, and I was kind of embarrassed about it as a teenager. I remember her saying, stand proud because people look at a tall woman who enters a room. And I don't share that in the context of saying that if you don't have that stature you can't have a presence. I'm
Right.
sharing that because that gifted me with a sense of confidence. And so I think it's about who was in my life that gave me those gifts of confidence. And in the end, it was my mother and my mom's cousin. And, and I had a really, really, really good friend that was very effective at lifting me up.
That's really great to
Yeah.
hear. We all need those people. And I like that you brought up that you didn't connect with your mom early on, just because she was probably different than what you were wanting or
Yeah.
experiencing. And I think that's very
Yeah.
similar to me. So I feel that kind of near and dear, where very similar. My mom grew up very much, she was stay-at-home mom off and on, worked a little bit as well as we went through school, especially as we got older.
Yeah.
But really her main goal and duties were caring for the kids, and it was just something I candidly have never wanted kids. And so I didn't relate to her at all. And then same thing as I got older, I very much later, I remember, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I remember calling my mom one day and just being like, I was 22 maybe. And I said, I'm really sorry. I was kind of a jerk. I probably use different language because it's my mom and I can, but I was
Yeah.
kind of a jerk from like 12 to 17.
Yeah.
Love ya. I know I was probably the hardest to care for, but I do think you're phenomenal. And it was just that. It was just
Yeah.
I was such a different person. And she's a caregiver. Like that's just who my mom is.
Yes.
She's always cared for my father, like hand and foot. Just it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. And I felt like, oh, well, I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want to have to kind of care for my loved ones that much. I don't know why. It's just not who I am. But later saw that helped all of our family run so
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
And there's no way my parents could have done it with 3 kids any other way. And
Yeah.
so, and just knowing as you're, getting older, 22, 25, whatever it is, where you
Yeah.
start to see like caring for kids is hard. I don't know how my mom's sane after 3 of
It's hard
us
work.
and like all she did, and just now appreciating that was a lot of darn work. So I like that you said that because a lot of folks mention their mom, but it's usually like, oh my gosh, we've been best friends and we're, and I like that different angle where at first
Yeah.
maybe we weren't, but now I see and appreciate all of that.
And she actually, I've had that same phone call to my mother.
Good. I think we all probably should do that. You guys call your
I
mom. Tell them you
progressed.
love them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think that the interesting thing is my mom identified it, that, in the context of, so, teaching me how to sew. I'd be like, oh, I don't want to do this. And so she would say, well, then you're going to have to go to college if you're not going to learn to sew. And
Not wrong.
this will help life. So you're going to know the basics. And she was right.
Yeah.
So, but
It's a
I
great
think
thing to know.
she that's something she was pretty effective at. And, whether you call it a sense of humor or whatever, but it's, I can sew, and, if I've needed to, I can. So I think that's, but to me that, yeah, I just had a different perspective.
Yep, exactly. And that perspective changed so much as we age. You're
Mm.
on the receiving end of it. You're like, no, this isn't great. And then when those
Yeah.
tables turn, you very quickly, and I'm certain I would have seen it probably even more loud had I decided to have kids. Because then, it's even more near and dear. But yeah, you definitely, as you grow, we kind of start to see those and appreciate them
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah. But I think we're one of the things, another part of my life is just embracing the journey that each person
Yeah.
has. And there's so much beauty in each person's unique journey.
Yep. And it's funny because when I told my parents that we didn't want to have kids, my parents have several grandkids now and they love them so much. Like I said, my mom really likes to be that grandma. So
Yeah.
they love that. They definitely had said before my husband and I would make great parents. I think they're right. I think we really would, which is both of us never really wanted to. And it's funny because now they've fully accepted that. And they're just like, no, I think you guys are perfect the way you are. Like
Aw.
the way that your life panned out and what you're doing now seems to be exactly what you should be. If you don't want kids, it's perfect. So yeah, that's really cool.
Awesome. 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 That's great.
So tell me some significant barriers that you've had to overcome, adversity,
Mm.
obstacles. What are some of those ones that stick out for you throughout your life that have kind of formed you into who you are today?
Right. There's one that I use very commonly as an example. So when I was in middle school, um, I someone in our church noticed that I was crooked, that one of my hips was higher than the other. And it come to find out I had pretty severe scoliosis,
Oh,
an
wow.
S curve. And so all through middle school, I wore a back brace and a neck brace. So that was 3 years of, pretty formative,
Wow. And
and
was it like big and obvious and all
yes,
that stuff?
yeah, and it
Really?
went up to my neck and,
Oh.
I said my mom made me clothes, they were ugly. And of course, all this stuff. What that experience in my life did, because people would stare at me but what that did is I really locked into being smart and really locked into the importance of that. Now later in life I realized that it was a bit of a blind spot, that I'd put too much of my self-worth into being smart. uh, but that was just really a remarkable pivotal time, which I was able to detach from how I looked, what other people thought about me, that type of stuff. So to me that was one of those, I think, pretty significant barrier.
Yeah,
But
that's a tough
came
one, especially as a
came
kid.
through it. I think the other barriers, which ended up being blessings, really was, military life. And, we're very committed to that service. But some of those barriers were just making sure that our family stayed intact and my marriage stayed healthy throughout, multiple deployments and separation,
Yeah, that's gotta be tough.
those types of things.
Oof.
Um, I think is, it's just something that made us stronger, in context. So I think those are the two big things. I just recently paid off the last of my student loans. And so this will be the first time, the last couple of months will be the first time in my entire adult life that I either wasn't going to school or paying student loans.
Going to or paying for school.
Yeah. And some people have said, oh, I don't know how I could, about borrowing money. In my mind and my life, that I didn't have a choice. That's how I was going to
Yep,
educate myself. And I always chose to look at that as an investment.
it's great.
And so I have no regrets for myself at all.
I can't think
So
of it, but there's another famous quote that's something about an investment in knowledge is the best investment you'll make, but I don't remember who it is, and I don't
yeah,
remember
it's
the
close.
exact quote. But yeah, yeah, and it's not at all false. I know there's a lot of conversation kind of happening in the world about student loans and such, but I think you're
Yes.
exactly right. Just being able to invest in the things like that build you what you want to
Yes.
be,
Yes.
make you into what you want to be. And I think
100%.
that's really important. And if some people, that's an education. Some people, it's a trade school. Some people, it's just a lot of hard work, whatever that
Right.
is. I
Yeah.
think it is just my husband never went to college, but knows more about machines, anything with a motor,
Mhm.
anything with an engine than I will ever know. And a lot of that was self-taught. He had a couple mentors growing up, those sorts of things. And
Yeah.
I think you see those folks, like, same thing. They still have learned so much and put so much
Yes.
time into education. And it is very, very, very valuable.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, what I like to share with young people is find a skill that will allow you to be productive. And that may be through military service, it may be through college, it may be through a trade school, it may be through a passion. I have a nephew that loves heavy equipment. He's going to be a heavy equipment operator, and he'll be fabulous at it.
Yep.
So
And if you can love something like that so young and get into it and know you can make money, like, heck yeah, that's like the route we're all going. So to
that's
know it
exactly
young
right.
and be able to hone in on it, it makes so much sense.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
So work-life relationship. I don't call it
Oh,
balance because there never is a
I
proper one
agree.
depending on who you are. What does that look like for you? Are you
Mhm.
the type that really is always on? Do you really segment life and work and, family and all of those? Do they blend together a ton? Tell me how you feel about that relationship.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you don't lose balance. There's no such thing.
There's
And
no such thing.
and I for a while I thought about integration, but I really think the best way to describe it for me is juggling. So many years ago, a friend of mine talked about, it's all about juggling balls and knowing which ones are glass balls that cannot be dropped, knowing which ones are rubber balls that you can drop and they'll come back to them later. Some of them, the ones you have to keep going all the time. How do you keep those to be your core? So to me, it's really about the sensation and the mindset of juggling.
I
Um,
love that relationship you
yes.
did and the glass versus the rubber. That's really smart. I've
Yeah.
never heard it put like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I will apply that. Like right now, this is glass. I need to focus on finishing this presentation. Or,
Yeah.
I have a family member that's really in need right now. That's the glass right now. So to me, it really is a juggling act and an integration. And I embrace it personally. I like to have the ability to switch back and forth. Um, I do believe we all do need to unplug, and I do believe that there's times too when we need to be ultimately focused at work. So
Mhm.
I just really like the option to be adaptable and nimble around what my needs are any given day.
Yes. Absolutely
Yeah.
phenomenal. Okay, so hold on just a sec here. I have this fun little guy. So this is our buzzer. You can hear it. It's
Oh
terrible.
my.
So that means it is time for our speed round questions. So
Okay.
if you knew this was coming, but you don't know what they are, so it's the best
Fine.
part.
It's gonna be super authentic then.
Yes. So we'll give you just a couple seconds. If you don't answer fast enough, you get buzzed. So that we're
Come
looking for
on.
really fun, fast answers on these. All
Okay.
right. You ready?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Would you rather go into the past and meet your ancestors or go into the future and meet your great great grandchildren?
I want to meet my great great grandchildren.
Okay. I think I was going to ask why, but I think it's the whole, you almost opened with talking about your grandkids. So I think the great
Yeah.
greats, you probably want to meet them just as bad,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah. I mean, I know somewhat of where my ancestors have been, obviously just key details, but I think it would be just marvelous to see you know, the future generations.
Yeah. Would you rather meet George Washington or the current president?
George Washington.
Good.
Fascinated by, and I've been doing some family genealogy research recently and had no idea how many ancestors we had back in the colonial times. So that would be fascinating.
Ooh, yeah, that would be really interesting. What woman would you have on your side in a battle royale? So fight to the death.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know if you meant Fortnite or but so
I don't know
tried that
those,
with
so
my
maybe.
tried that with my grandson. You know what? I'm gonna I don't have a specific one, but it would be the Viking woman warrior. Very
Okay.
fascinated, however they say that, but just very fascinated by, women warriors that were battling right alongside men.
Oh, yes, I love all of that. I just my husband and I went on vacation to the Bahamas and we went to this distillery and they were showing us around and they were talking about female pirates. And I was like, wait, I hadn't really heard a lot about these guys. Like female pirates in history. So they were telling us about these two specific female pirates. But it was very cool to learn. Yeah, same thing. You're just like, oh, wait, this is neat. And not only were they female pirates, but of course, it was long enough ago that they had to dress like men. So they were like secret female pirates. It
Secret
was
female.
very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you rather everyone in the world be smarter or nicer?
Nicer.
Okay. You surprised me with that. I definitely thought you were going smarter because you just said that you'd put a lot of kind of time, energy, and effort into education.
Yeah.
Very
But
good.
again, I think the human experience is about feeling like you matter. And part of that is, being nicer.
I completely agree. We could all use a little more nice in the world. What would be the title of your biography?
Oh, that's really difficult. We're gonna have to pass on that one because
look, I was coming to the
nothing. I was gonna say buzz me because I was like, just let it come to you, and nothing's coming.
That's the toughest one for everyone. So maybe I need to take it out, but I like that it's so hard. And some people shock the heck out of me. As soon as they say it, I'm like, that's absolutely perfect.
Yeah. I mean, that's what was going on in my head. Was like, just let it come to you, but nothing came. So
okay, keep thinking about it. What is your favorite month of the year and why?
May.
Okay.
So I really like spring. I just like the newness of spring. So I'll go with
kind of
May.
fresh air and all that stuff that goes along with spring. I completely agree. What superpower would you most want if you could choose only one?
I want to fly. I want to be able to go or beam me up. I want to be able to go home and check on my mom and come back. And I want to be able to
quickly get to your vacation spot.
I want to personally be able to fly or beam around.
Yeah.
That's what I wish I could do.
Some teleportation. Yeah, I love it. Would you, and this is another one I'm very interested in hearing the answer for. Would you rather make a phone call or send a text?
There are times I really would prefer a text. But if I had to be forced, I would make a phone call.
Got it. Would you rather be a kid your whole life or an adult your whole life?
I would rather be an adult. I'm just pretty pragmatic. So
well, and you said you got teased a little bit as a kid, so it's probably like, well, that wasn't very fun. Let's do, being adults a lot more.
I was in a hurry to grow up. I was, so I'm okay.
I totally understand. We often talk on that question about, if it was a kid today, I definitely don't want to be a kid today. I think it's too hard.
Oh my God.
When I was a kid, now that was fun. But I do I think because I'm full adults, I, obviously fully care for myself and I don't have any children. I'm like, well, I feel like this is like being a kid, except for I have to pay my own bills.
The best of both worlds.
Yeah. So it's okay. I'm okay with it.
That's good.
Well, you did it. That was the last one.
Thank you. It was really enjoyable. Very enjoyable.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for coming on. Tell me anything that we didn't touch on that you want to mention to our listeners about you, yourself, the company you will represent, anything that we didn't touch on?
Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. I really just wanted to convey, so I'll just summarize it like this. I really wanted to convey to women, to the girls out there, just keep moving one step ahead. Follow your heart, do the work, at the same time, love yourself.
Yeah.
And, from a company perspective, I truly believe in the experiences that we are investing in and creating for our Comcast customers, and doing all within my influence to make it better every day.
And how do people connect with you? Social media, website, how do they connect with you? How do they learn more about, if they have any questions about Comcast, what you do for a living, or yourself, how do they connect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn, and customers do reach out to me on LinkedIn. So you can find me under Diana Anderson. I'm not on there every day, but I do try to check it weekly. And then the best thing is to call 1-800-XFINITY.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
It was
Everybody,
such a pleasure, Jenny.
Yes, thank you. It was amazing. Everybody, listeners, please make sure you like, comment, share, give us a rating, tell everybody how much you love the podcast. Shoot me an email if you have anybody you'd like to suggest to be on it, and have an awesome afternoon.